Now, government is on a manhunt for masterminds of Friday's revolts by separatist groups in the Volta region who laid siege at a police station there. Shots were fired, leaving policemen injured. AK-47 rifles stolen from the Avayima police armory as major entry roads into Volta region were blocked. Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah says the masterminds have been identified and efforts are already underway to apprehend them. The government says it also identified the source of funding for the group. Kweku Asante has the rest of the story.
24 hours after a group of secessionists blocked roads in what was an attempt to break away from Ghana, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has said the disruption has been contained and efforts are being made to completely deal with any outstanding issue.
The events of Friday morning have been, as of now, contained by the security agencies. Efforts are also underway to contain outstanding threats from this group.
Government also knows where the secessionists are getting their fund from. That is according to Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah.
Yes, we know where their funding is coming from, and the various agencies are moving in as part of this comprehensive plan to deal with this whole phenomena. They are also moving in to deal with their sources of funding and persons who we believe are associated with the funding of this group.
According to Kojo Nkrumah, there was no intelligence failure as some have suggested. Some Ghanaians have said government ought to have been able to pick up information and completely stop the group from carrying out the activities of last Friday. But the Information Minister disagrees.
I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that no, there was no intelligence failure. Indeed, the most dire aspects of what the intelligence suggested these persons wanted to do were contained by the security agencies.
The Information Minister also gave an update on how the 31 persons arrested by the police are being interrogated. He also assured that charges will be pressed upon completion of investigation.
Currently, 31 of these persons are in custody. You are aware that one person died in the security operations to contain what was going on. And these 31 persons have been airlifted to Accra, currently being interrogated by the BNI and the police CID. When they are done, they will determine exactly which charges to prefer against them and to put them before the court. You can be assured of that.
Kojo Nkrumah rubbished the claims that government may have orchestrated the disruptions of last Friday to divert attention from other equally topical national issues, particularly the NDC's allegation against the Electoral Commission concerning the voters' exhibition.
There are suggestions by some political groups that they think government is behind what happened, so that government can use it as a ruse to do what? Send soldiers to intimidate people in these areas. Now, let me give a head-on response to that. First of all, it is not true that government in times past sent soldiers to intimidate people in these areas.
Finally, government is urging residents to be calm and go about their daily lives as enough measures have been put in place to protect the populace.
Residents of these areas are encouraged to remain calm and to go about their daily lives without fear.
Meanwhile, the chiefs of Bihohoi, Alavanyo and Anglon traditional areas have condemned Friday's civil disturbances in the Volta region. They want government to deal ruthlessly with individuals identified to have been associated with a secessionist group.
Some armed men were reported to have attacked the Avayima and Mepe police stations in the North Thorn district of the Volta region on Friday dawn. The armed men attacked both stations simultaneously, overpowered the police officers, freed inmates, broke into the armories and stole firearms. They physically assaulted, shot and injured police officers. They also held some officers hostage and seized vehicles belonging to the Ghana Police Service and the North Thorn District Assembly. Roadblocks were mounted at Tefle, on the Accra-Sugakope Aplau Highway, and at Dropon, on the Accra-Ho Highway. The Western Togoland Restoration Front, in a press statement, claimed ownership for the disturbances, indicating it was to assert their sovereignty over the Western Togoland territory. The officers held hostage were, however, rescued by a joint police-military enforcement team, while the vehicles were retrieved by the formed police unit. Nonetheless, some traditional authorities in the Volta region have condemned the resurgence and disassociated themselves from it. The chief of B. Abansi, Togbe Ajiman V, described the incidents as unfortunate and a threat to Ghana's peace and democracy.
We, the chiefs, elders, and the entire citizenry, with our French settler communities within the Gbin traditional area, condemn in no uncertain terms the activities of this group. We do not condone this act of illegality and vandalism being perpetrated by this group. We, the chiefs, elders, and the people of Gbin Howe are Voltarians and Ghanaians, and for that matter, owe allegiance to no foreign power than the government of Ghana. It is an undeniable fact that Gbin Howe, since independence, had been part of the Volta region of Ghana, and we have lived in peace and harmony with other regions of Ghana ever since. It is therefore unfortunate and unacceptable for a group of people with their selfish agenda to destabilize the peace and harmony prevailing in Gbin Howe and, for that matter, Volta region in Ghana.
Away from the Volta region, Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh is asking paramount chiefs in the region to use their leadership to resolve and mitigate dispute in the area. He's been speaking at the swearing-in of members of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs. Rafiq Salam has more.
The Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh, lamented about the numerous chieftaincy and land disputes in the region, calling on the paramount chiefs to use tradition and time-tested methods to resolve those disputes.
Chieftaincy and land disputes cause havoc, social unrest, and disturb the collective peace in areas where they abound, and thus become obstacles to progress and development in the affected areas. On this score, I wish to encourage our traditional authorities to use your leadership positions to mitigate and resolve disputes involving succession to skins in your communities, as well as review harmful traditional practices which affect our people, particularly our women folk.
Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh expressed concern of the indiscriminate and double sale of land to individuals and organizations without considering the larger interests of the community.
Kuru President Namine, you are managers of the land within your respective jurisdiction. You hold the lands in trust for your people. It is absolutely necessary to do some introspection, to right the wrongs, to secure the land for posterity. There are concerns of the indiscriminate sale of land.
In the Central Region, the Security Council has appealed to the Inspector General of Police to step up security in parts of the region ahead of the 2020 elections. This call follows what the council says worrying development in the Ejumako-Enyane Siam and the Ewutu Senya East constituencies. Correspondent Richard Kojanyako has more.
The regional minister, during the IGP's tour of the region, indicated to him areas that the IGP should intensify efforts in its operations to avert activities that are likely to breach the peace the region is enjoying. Kwamna Duncan speaks first on the Ejumako-Enyane constituency.
In the registration period, you had macho men being brought in, and I won't blame one side. It's like everybody wants to have the bigger part of the turf. And so some amount of breach of the law was reported. And I cannot place my finger firmly on the fact that we're going to have it free or we're going to have it easy in the election period.
For the Ewutu Senya East constituency that includes Kaswa, the head of the Regional Security Council says that constituency is already a hotbed of criminal activities, and the recent events during the registration gives him cause for worry.
It's become like a port where anything that relates to crime, you find it. Because the daily report that I get from Commander, most of the crime activities, that's where it comes from. So it's become like a ready a ready enclave where if people with crime-minded agenda want to recruit, they're able to get them. Whichever, whether to knock down somebody, whether to hit at an opponent, and all of that. It's easy to recruit such individuals. So it's remained, the Waterloo in terms of crime control and crime prevention, crime management.
The Inspector General of Police assured the regional minister the police service has taken note of the situations and would act accordingly.
So operations is here, and he's going to engage the regional commander and the commanders from Kaswa, and everything that we need to do in terms of maybe give this period saturating the place and making sure that the place is dominated by the police, so that we can take over the area completely.
And that's it for the AM News. We've got plenty of headlines to share with you, though. Just stay with us. Joseph Akable will join me in a bit, and we will tell you what's making headlines in the newspapers. Welcome to the newspaper review segment of our show, where Joseph Akable joins me. He's our court correspondent. But guess what? Last Friday, when that contempt application was being heard at the High Court, you were refused entry. I couldn't believe it.
Yes, I was comfortably seated outside, relaxing.
Was it an in-camera hearing?
No, it wasn't. And I think generally there is an approach, or there's a way people tend to view the work of the media. And so you get to a place and the place is full. This is a public interest matter. Mm-hmm. And so you would expect that at least someone can decide that maybe there's a pew that we are keeping for journalists at least to come. Because when all the journalists are there and you don't even get all supporters in, the whole world gets to know the story properly. Yeah. But if it's the other way around, it doesn't really help. And so we got in. The gentleman told me that the place was simply full and that they are sitting.
So who is this gentleman?
He's a policeman.
So this is not the sitting judge who decided that journalists should stay out.
The policeman informed us that they don't have spaces available, and so it took the intervention of one of our colleagues who kept insisting before one of us was allowed in. Then later on, as spaces were created with people exiting, we were able to make our way inside. But there is a friend of mine, Bright Kwachi. He's a lawyer. He watches this show very well. He was very helpful as well in the course of the proceedings, and he told me to say hi to you this morning.
Well, hello to you, Mr. Kwachi, as well. Thank you very much. Maybe we can make you a correspondent when they refuse the noon journalists.
I told him.
But this is what are you guys doing? Because you're a group of court correspondents. I think you should petition the CJ. What do you guys say?
It's a matter we've raised many times, especially with the previous Chief Justice. Since this Chief Justice came in, this is the first time. I think generally, and like I keep saying each time it happens, when we all close from our workplace and we go home, we turn on the TV, we want to find out what is happening in the country. And it will not be the best if we are not treated as those who ought to be the first in the place, especially when it's a public interest matter. And so we expect that when you go to the places, at least you can decide, this is a matter like today, we are going back this morning. You know that obviously
I'm going to ask you about what happened to Kennedy Agyapong. We're going to talk about it, and I think it's in the court's interest for it to be fairly represented.
Exactly.
It is appropriate for the persons who usually come there to report to do the reporting.
I agree.
Yeah. After all, sometimes they say don't use your phone.
Yeah.
Don't even record the things. You guys have gone through a lot. You've been through a lot with this whole court process.
I guess we will still go through a lot. I mean, it will. Hopefully, it gets to a point where people understand that. I mean, it's not because we just wake up and we just want to go to the place. It's just because of the public interest in the issues, and we want to ensure that our viewers and our listeners on radio who have interest in this matter get to know what is actually happening. And so that is why we come there, and we expect to be treated at least with some level of
But you know
dignity.
what, Joseph? I'm thinking that when this happens, you shouldn't just be talking to a policeman who thinks that he's overly powerful and he's standing outside the courtroom and he's telling you with the authority that he has that you can't go in. I feel like there should be somebody else on the spot that you can contact. I mean, you shouldn't be that helpless because there's one policeman who says he wouldn't allow you in.
I agree, and I mean, I must commend some of the courts in terms of how it is managed. There's one court, Justice Chebafo's court. I mean, the court, he's currently at the Court of Appeal, but when he was at the High Court, Commercial Court 7, there was a clerk he was working with for the public interest matters. When he comes, I mean, he tells us to be patient, don't worry. Once the case is called, he clears a pew and makes sure that there's a pew or two reserved for journalists, so that at least you can come in and take your seat quietly at the back where you are not disturbed and be able to pay attention and write and take notes and listen to what is happening. Yeah. So it's a bit of difference.
I think by talking about this even on television this morning, we're making an appeal to the judges. I know quite a number of them watch our show as well.
Yeah.
They should be interested in the journalists covering the story. Yeah. Because in a matter like what happened on Friday, it would be totally fair that the judge would not even know about it. Yeah. He would only hear fallout of it after the case, you know, after close of day. So they should just be interested in it and find out who the journalists are in your court and where they're seated and make room for them. Okay, let's talk about the newspapers. I haven't seen Kennedy Japan featuring. Is it because the case was on Friday? So what happened?
We are going back this morning. So on Friday.
Oh, today?
Yes, this morning. So on Friday, they played the video that went viral. This was after lots of back and forth over whether or not, you know, he has petitioned the Chief Justice, raising issues of possible bias against the judge. He's also filed an order seeking to restrain the judge from hearing the matter as well. And so he informed the judge said, okay, I'm proceeding nonetheless. And then now the judge raised the charge against him. He pleads not guilty. Then they played the video recording. The courtroom was silent. Yeah, when the video was played. And I mean, some of the things that were said, I mean, unfortunately.
So he was there in person?
Yeah, he was there. He has to be up to listen to the case against him. Unfortunately, for the contents, I mean, for good reasons, I can't repeat them. But
yeah, of course. Yeah. Unless you want to be hauled there too.
Not at all. Not at all. So he said the things that he said in the video. And afterwards, his lawyers requested a copy of the video as well as the court records for the day. And
excuse me, is the source not his own station?
Yes, but they were actually, you know, the point the lawyers were raising was that they say that the procedure is that the court should have written to the station to take the original copy.
Oh, okay.
Because the judge said he heard it on YouTube.
Okay.
And so their point was that it could be doctored, but the judge was making the point that, I mean, this is content that was generated from them.
Hey, Charlie, procedure. So you guys are back.
So this morning, these lawyers are supposed to respond to the case against them, i.e. explain why the video that was played on Friday does not amount to contempt.
Oh, okay. Will he be in court himself?
He has to be in court. He has to be.
What's the name of the judge again? I kind of really like
Justice
him.
Amos Wooney.
Okay.
Amos Wooney, yeah.
And this is outside of a land issue that he had dealt with.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's do the rest of the stories. We can stay with this matter for the rest of the time, but you need to know what's making headlines in the newspapers. So this is the Daily Graphic newspaper. House of Chiefs condemns secessionists, rallies support for government. The picture that comes with it is the National House of Chiefs President, Togbi Afada the 14, who's the Awomafia of the, no, not the Awomafia of the Anglo States. Nope. Okay, but that's Togbi Afada, the President of the House of Chiefs. But there are other chiefs who've also added their voices. I'm sure you've heard about the one leading my state, the Anglo State, Togbi Sri III. And then there's also a spokesperson for the Gbi Traditional Council, Togbi Azima V, as well as the overlord of the Alavanyo Traditional Council, Togbiga Chidi Atakra VII, who have all made separate calls, all condemning what has happened, what happened last Friday, really. Activities of Saturday Group, no intelligence failure. That's according to Information Minister Kojo Opong Nkrumah. This is NACOC, and that's the Narcotics Control Now Commission, picks suspect in cocaine haul. And I have to do the story itself so you can understand, because this happened over the weekend. Says that the Narcotics Control Commission has picked up some persons to help in its investigations after it intercepted 152 kilograms of cocaine, 15 slabs in Tema and the Greater Accra region, based on an intelligence received in a joint operation with the Bureau of National Investigations and the National Security Council Secretariat. They seized the illegal substance which was concealed in a shipment of sugar from Brazil, and which has a street value of about $15 million. So the rest of the story and then an understanding of the sugar consignment, the operation itself, all contained in the story. But I don't have that kind of short memory. I know what could possibly happen to what has been seized, so I'm not excited yet, because this could turn into something else, we know. Back on the front.
Baking soda.
Baking soda or coconut, Charlie. Ghana, 3 others to benefit from COVID-19 private sector facility. This is a UNDP facility that we're benefiting alongside the Philippines and Colombia, I think, if I didn't get that wrong. But details of that is in the newspaper today, in the center spread of the paper. Here's a man that I used to watch on CNN with his cooking show, Parts Unknown. He's an author, a journalist, globetrotter, and I'm sure you know Anthony Bourdain. Probably have seen him. It's in the center spread what they're talking about. The reason his name comes in the story is because of the mental health conversation. It says keeping appearances, mental health of Ghanaian celebrities. So they just talked about the fact that he was going through some challenges himself. Remember, if you remember quite well how his death occurred, well, he was in the middle of a shoot. He was shooting his cooking program, which I loved watching, by the way. And then we were told he hanged himself in his hotel room. And later on, there were conversations about his mental condition and the fact that he had issues that he was battling with. So the rest of the stories in the center spread. Also, illegal market sprawls at Adenta. It is now becoming a common phenomenon to find market women abandoning their shops at designated market to pitch camp along the street to sell their wares. For them, they have to get closer to customers. And as customers, we are usually also to blame because we stop anywhere to shop. Once we find the tomatoes and the pepper and the onion, we will stop. If we refuse to, they will also not be encouraged to shop where we are supposed to be walking and other things happening. On the back page, President cuts out for Wioso recycling compost plants. COVID-19 floods delay tunnel irrigation projects. Let's quickly do the Finder front page. Actionable intelligence prevented attacks from secessionists. That's according to Kojo Nkrumah. Dr. Awal emphasizes importance of secession plan. Funding secured for all projects, President assures, as he cuts sword for $116.2 million inchi to Elubo Road. Anglo Bihohoi chiefs disown and condemn secessionist group. Chief of Staff receives prestigious award. Akable?
Yes, we can start with the front page of the Daily Guide. It says Blay warns NPP against complacency. I'm talking about Freddie Blay, yes. The NPP national chairman. Nana Jabs Mahama, I cut short with funds, and government won't spare Volta rebels. Audit service denies query and boost for lotto firms, also on the front page. The president opens works on 15 million euros waste plant in Western North. The back page has Akono relishes Mali test, dumps Jan Boy and Co. And Moreno Jabs Sojier also on the back page. Limitless polo tourney pulls massive crowd, and sex toys shirt sponsorship approved. Also.
Excuse me?
Sex toys shirt sponsorship approved. So there is an Eredivisie site, that's the Dutch league, that they will play the 2020-21 season with a company that sells sex toys. And so initially some concerns.
Hey, this is so unrelated, as if they're going to produce sex toys for the club.
No, but they were, they put the ad on there, and kids and everyone watches football. And so concerns were raised initially. So initially the idea was rejected on the grounds that it was against their code of values. But the team will now, that's MN, will now be allowed to wear shirts sponsored by Easy Toys and will debut the shirts in the clash with Willem II. The sponsor is important for the club, the chairman said. Yeah, certainly important, not the toys, the money. Yeah, but that is it for the Daily Guide. Let me see whether there's an interesting cartoon here for us today. Okay, this one is about the cool memories. Okay, you can check that one out. Yeah, interesting. We can do the front page of the Ghanaian Times now. The Ghanaian Times says Volta region chiefs film at secessionist groups call for swift government action, and 40 young business owners ended in Accra. A president cut short for construction of recycling plant in Abuenidua. Abuenidua. Animal without tail. I see. 152 kilograms of cocaine intercepted at Tema is on page 3 of the Ghanaian Times. And the same page 3 has a story about 2 mobile phone thieves in trouble. Very interesting story. The gentlemen were in a car with a lady, and we are told when the lady was about to alight, she couldn't open the door. So one of the gentlemen came to help her open the door. Then after she got down, she realized that the phone was not in her bag anymore. So she tried to stop the taxi driver who sped off. But the residents were able to, you know how Ghana roads are, traffic and everything. So they pursued the car on foot, and they managed to cross and surround the car and pull them from the car and handed them over to the police.
Including the driver. He's also
including the driver, so he's a suspect with the other gentleman who was in the car.
That's nice. You know when you're not a gentleman and you pretend to be? This is a classic case.
A classic case. So it's actually an iPhone 11 Pro that they stole, yeah. So they are in the custody of the Accra Region Police, and they've been processed for court.
I had a funny story recently about a lady who felt jealous because he would see his colleague who would arrive in the office and the husband would open the door, the car door for her. And this was like a continuous something that he saw. So he felt, oh, your husband is so romantic. What she didn't know was that the car door actually had a problem. So this the woman couldn't open the door by
from
herself.
The inside. Oh, I see.
So the husband had to do it, not because he was so romantic.
Yeah.
So, you know, whatever you have, just cherish it, okay?
You never know. Okay, so the back page has this story about some 40 young business owners who have been honored in Accra, and Center to provide advisory services to businesses in Obuasi inaugurated. It's on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. That is it for the Ghanaian Times and the Daily Guide.
Let's do the Daily Dispatch. Focus on Ayawaso West Wagon, Greater Accra. I got this question over there. Somebody asked me a very hard question. Like I can see the results in the 2020 parliamentary elections. Person asked, do you think John Dumelo can win the seat? Do you think John Dumelo can win? And I was beginning to analyze the weights of the sitting member of parliament and how I know she was even involved in her late husband's campaign. And so I had to pause a bit. I don't know. I think that was my final answer. But there's a focus. If you're asking the same question, can Dumelo win where 5 NDC candidates have failed? It's a very big question, but we know that John has also been very innovative. And he's been doing stuff with the students particularly. And he's been going to the other areas. You know, Ayawaso West Wagon is a beautiful constituency. There is a portion, a large portion. It's sophisticated, has high class. People who will be interested, I guess, if I was living there, I'll be interested in the road. I'll be interested in electricity, water. I'll be interested in security. Those are, I guess, the big issues. But there's also another area that people are concerned about, all the basic things, toilets, you know, all the things that you can think about. There's poverty. So I'm not sure, like, I don't know.
Except that, I mean, the people you are talking about in the second case, they are in the minority. And that is why, how come 5 people have already failed before him? And so, like you said, he's a different personality. He's not your typical politician.
Yes.
His approach is different. He's a popular figure.
Yes.
And so it will be a tough race for him. Can he win? It's a big question to ask. I think
Can Lydia retain?
I think she has the advantage because it's 5 NDC candidates. It's a safe seat for the MPP as it stands. And so John Dumelo has a lot of work to do in order to win the seat. And that's how come he's working at this hard. But it's one of the seats that you need to look out for in December.
Absolutely. Well, you can find out how the Dispatch is also analyzing this question in the paper today. Also, 13 Western Togolanders shot. Abu Sakara on National Interest Movement, People's Charter. focus on population and composition in Greater Accra and Ashanti regions. Kwatson on Ghanaian media and civil society. That's Mr. KB Kwatson. If you're interested in what you've heard, what you've seen, you can grab the Daily Dispatch. Let's do the Republic. The Republic Press, front page. Government denies security failure in Western Togoland secessionist attacks. Those who've got expertise and security, when they're analyzing, and I monitored Newsfile on Saturday. Professor Enin, for instance, describes what happened as a success, because they went through a lot, and if we had the intelligence that we claim that we did, why did we allow them to go that far? Why did it take us that long to coil what had happened?
The press conference by the information minister, I mean, very interesting revelations. He says the intelligence they picked actually points that they intended to take their number of, so there is the pond dam, they wanted to take control of it. They wanted to actually blow it up, he says. He also talks about the market that they wanted to burn down, as well as some other key installations. And so his argument was that they were able to foil those ones. But Professor Enin makes the argument that these are individuals who were able to seize a police station. They entered the armory, took 10 AK-47 assault rifles. They finished and seized vehicles and actually drove some of the police vehicles. I've seen a video. They drove the vehicle from the police station with their flag on top. They were singing and cheering. They finished and went to some major roads to block the roads using blocks that they loaded in vehicles and took over there. And so he says that obviously is success for you. And the Volta Regional Minister tells us that their groups are now 3 actually. And the 3 groups broke from the main Homeland Study group that we know. And he says the 3 splinter groups are actually more militarized. They have arms and they are more daring compared to the others who will just be declaring independence and singing and waving flags. These guys are violent, and that's the situation we have on our hand. And government says that they've been able to identify the source of funding. And in the coming days, the security agencies will actually put out the names, the pictures of the individuals who are the sponsors of this group and the main promoters of this.
I worry. You know why I worry and why I'm not confident in all that you've narrated? Because we've had these guys before.
Yeah.
We haven't successfully prosecuted them. In fact, we let them go, even though we say, well, some of them prosecution is continuing. But we haven't, I'm not sure we've shown, and you can correct me, we've shown seriousness with this matter in the past.
We haven't.
In terms of prosecuting them. So if you have all this information that you are now telling me, what have you done with it? If you haven't done anything with it, then I'm sorry, it doesn't really mean anything to me. So you know the existence, you know there are 3 groups, what have you done? Yeah. How have you stopped them from? And then you say, oh, they are not, this is like a very small group. How come they were able to do what they did? And we're just watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't give me confidence. And so, and I had some people from the Volta region call me and, you know, like, Sally, what's happening? These people, what are they doing, you know, to us as if everybody is in it on this? And this is a very small group. So why are we letting them play with us like that? And we're a whole nation. We're a whole sovereign state. And then you come back and show us the force that you have. Like, yeah, you haven't been able to do anything.
Professor Enin spoke about that actually. You know, there was a video of the dogs, the sniffer dogs who were being held by the police and walking through time. Professor Enin's response was that, what are they sniffing? Says it's too late in the day. Those are Professor Kwesi's words. I mean, he's the security analyst.
But that's classic. Can you ask again? All right, let's do the other story in the Republic, and then we'll go to myjoyonline.com. This is interesting. Amase dumps MPP. Remember Amase? She's the sitting member of parliament for Akwatia. She wants to go independent, and that's because, you know, she had actually raised concerns during the primaries where she polled, was it 223, and then her contender had 227. So this was a very close contest, and she had raised issues with the whole process. And I'm not sure how that was resolved, really, because she was very dissatisfied.
A couple of weeks back, some residents demonstrated they wanted her to run independent. You know, the Akwatia seat was a seat that Baba Jama held on to for quite a while. And so the MPP was not able to win a seat. Then this hairdresser shows up and wins the primaries and goes a step further to win the seat for the MPP. And so she's a strong, formidable candidate. Then the expectation is that she'll be protected, or at least I mean, she wins the primaries, retained by the constituents, the delegates, because she's someone who has done what the party couldn't do. Then all of a sudden, she loses the election at the primary level. And so, I mean, the people feel like, I mean, this is a candidate who is strong in the constituency, who can actually retain the seat. And so they massed up on the streets and urged her to contest independence. And the early the MPP as a party is able to resolve this, the better for them, because
is it
the
not
NDC...
too late, perhaps? Because, you know, she wanted a recount of the ballots, but that was rejected.
Well, sometimes there's a way of reaching out to people. I mean, we've seen, I know of a seat somewhere in the northern region where the current MP was made to step down and not contest in the primaries. It's negotiation. You talk to people because you want to bring someone else. There's a way of going about it just to ensure that, I mean, in fact, if to be blunt, there are instances where people are made, they are given offers that, I mean, when we win, we'll make you a minister here, we'll make you a deputy minister here. So you relax, we want this person to go. You talk behind the stage and try to convince people. Because as it stands, should she contest as an independent candidate, it will affect the vote. And this is what happened in 2008. That is how come at the end of the first round, the NDC had the majority, because a lot of the MP people had gone independent and it affected their votes. And even though their flag bearer was leading at the end of round one, going into round two, everyone said that, look, we don't want to have a situation where the government in power does not have majority in parliament. So let's vote a certain way.
When we talk about Amasei, it brings back a lot of memories.
Yeah,
shall we
she promised
ourselves?
You to flow.
Yes, shall we? In Parliament.
House Committee and Social Welfare and Employment.
Let's talk about the speech you delivered on the 6th of March and how people are receiving it, basically ridiculing the statement that you made. How do you feel about that?
I'm very sad that people are laughing at me. But I'm proud of myself.
If you had the opportunity, would you change anything about either yourself or the speech that you made?
Oh, Mrs. Safi, I will not change anything.
Okay. When would we see you actively participating on the floor of Parliament?
April. By April, I will flow.
Surely, I believe that by April she will flow. I'm personally proud of her. She's done very well.
Echo, which year, please? 3 years ago. Hey, and the way people finished me, particularly the MPP, and they didn't even know the background of this conversation. Someday, if I want to react, I'll tell the story.
I was actually paying attention to how you looked in that video. I'm sure. I mean, our lines are activated. They should send us messages. Tell us about how Mama V looked 3 years ago. Yeah, that's Mama V.
Listen, the reason I locked my hair, I really didn't know what to do with my hair. I mean, I was just playing with it, cut it sometimes, do whatever. Yeah, but that's my story. I love it, actually. So yeah, Amasei has come a very long way, and she's a very strong person on the ground.
Yeah.
Also because of her husband. There are so many things that I've come to learn about her. She'll cause havoc if the MPP doesn't restore this. There's plenty of stories on myjoyonline.com. We'll leave the review here. Joseph Akable, you are in courts.
Yes.
Make sure no policeman prevents you from entering that courtroom. But there's also social distancing,
the policeman,
right?
Yeah, there's social distancing in the court.
So, by you journalists, out of all the cases that they are doing, you're not interested in any of them. You all came for Kennedy Japan.
The policemen were not in their numbers in all the courtrooms, except that one. We are going where they are.
We plead with the judge to be interested in our journalists, because they will tell us what you don't want anybody misrepresenting you, and that's why you need the right people to report the case. So we hope that it will be smooth for you today, Joseph.
Yeah.
We've got Reiko Ampofo, who was looking at the video of me interviewing Amasei, and then he came to look at me in person in the studio, like checking me out. I have come a long way, Masa. He's coming up next with sports. And my new club was in action, absolutely making me proud. And Leeds as well. So, you know, there's lots of things to talk about. Stay with us. Welcome to the AM Talk segment of our show, where we discuss issues of national interest. Very topical is this secessionist groups and what they did in the Volta region last Friday. Fallout of that with a press briefing from the information minister over the weekend. But there's also the issue of the Electoral Commission, the exhibition exercise that also ended on Sunday. Let me introduce to you my guests who are joining us via Zoom for this conversation, for all the analysis. Mr. Sede Champon is Member of Parliament from Praia-So. He chairs the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament. Good morning to you, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mama V. How are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for asking. Are you in the constituency?
No, I'm in Accra this morning.
Okay. All right. Let me say good morning to your colleague who's also joining us via Zoom. Al-Hassan Suhuyini is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Good morning to you, Alaji.
Good morning, Mama V. Hope you are well.
Yes, I am doing well. Yourself?
I'm terrific. Just that you had your birthday cake without an invitation. Belated best wishes to you.
It's true. Apologies. But are you also in the constituency?
No, I am currently in Accra. I got back just some few days ago.
Okay. I thought you guys are on research, so you spend the whole time in your constituencies.
Well, sometimes we have family here to attend to and other equally important business. So yes, we spend most of the time in the constituency, but we don't abandon family.
Yeah, true. Let's start off with the, the voters registration exercise, the exhibition process that the EC says completes the process of registration. Let's talk about monitoring and some of the things you've discovered on your rounds. Shall I start with you, Al-Hassan Suhuyini, since your party came up, the flag bearer of the party led a press conference where he outlined a number of issues from your own monitoring, particularly in Tamale North. What did you discover?
Well, I think that generally it has been very disturbing, and every citizen, every patriot must be worried about, the preparations leading up to the December elections. At this stage, if it is still that murky, we must all be concerned. We must all be worried. And I think this is the time that both political parties, as I say both because they are the major political parties, NPP and NDC, must be united in ensuring that the Electoral Commission gives Ghanaians the very best. And so sometimes when the issues are raised and they are not dismissed, but they are made to seem, insignificant, one is unearthed, especially when the ruling government, knowing their experience in, elections, when they begin to make light issues that are quite critical to a credible election, then one begins to wonder if there is something that is more than meets the eye. For example, the issues of missing names on the voter registers that have been exhibited by the Electoral Commission. First of all, in looking at it, we have to understand that the Electoral Commission made a number of promises to Ghanaians before it stampeded all of us into having this new voter register. Some of the promises included the fact that this was going to be a better system than the one that we had. And so based on the assurances that we're going to have a better system, a better data system, and a better way of doing things, the people of Ghana voted about $150 million for this exercise. So when you have problems in this exercise, and the best justification you get from people in charge is that it has happened before, then you wonder, if the assurances they gave us in relation to the fact that this was going to be a better system, for which we spent more money than we have ever spent before in compiling a voter register, then you begin to wonder if we have gone or we have come. In my constituency alone, at one particular polling station in Balai, everybody on the register was designated female. Everyone was designated as female. Were designated as female. Everyone. And you're talking about not over 300 people, over 400 people actually, on that voter register. How is it that a system that is supposed to be better, a system that we were convinced to spend so much money on, even at a time that we all know that it was risky for us to compile this register, apart from the issues of time and the issue of the virus, we still, as a country, thought we needed to do something better. So we voted so much money. How will such a system, produce a result like that? At one polling station in Gumani, between Gumani and Nyansha, Riyadh Al Quran, in my constituency, out of about 400 people who registered, 220 names could not be found on the register. 200, so more than 50% of the people who struggled, queued, and defied all the risk involved at the time of the registration, could not find their names on the register. Same was observed at the Chogu demonstration, Chogu primary polling station. So it is widespread. And at the end of the day, after our own assessment, we realized in the constituency that over 400 names, could not be found on the register. And the process of even, facilitating the rectification of this problem is not encouraging. First, you have the EC dismissing some of the concerns that are raised and making them appear, insignificant, when the number of names that we are talking about, is unprecedented. We have never really had those numbers missing in a register after the compilation of a voter register.
Okay, Mr.
In 2012, yes, a few names were missing here and there, but it was not this, it was not in this large scale, and it was not this, this skewed. Even that, the NPP at the time, issued statements upon statements calling on the Electoral Commission to do the right thing.
Mr.
So one would have expected that with their experience, it will not be a case of NDC versus the Electoral Commission. It should be a case of all Ghanaians, and for that matter, all political parties, insisting that the Electoral Commission does good to all of us, and especially to the people of Ghana who deserve to have their names on the register and who defy the odds, to queue and get their data taken.
Okay, Mr. Suhuyini, hold your thoughts there. Hold your thoughts there. I'll come back to you and also bounce some of the responses from the Electoral Commission because they've addressed these. But let me hear from your colleague, who's Member of Parliament from Praia. So let's find out what he also observed with this exhibition exercise.
Thank you very much, Mama V. I think indeed it is unprecedented, the errors that we have come across during this voter registration exercise. And I am particular on missing names as is being discussed. And besides the other cards which are supposed to be replaced and how the EC intends going about it. The EC must come clearer. As stakeholders in these elections, we equally demand that the EC work according to the tenets that we appreciate and understand of. And at the same time, certain codes, multiple codes, I must admit, should be explained and addressed by the EC because of what is happening. I think these are the major issues that we witnessed in my constituency and in other areas that I had occasion to also compare with. Let me further state that if we are going to hold an election and the EC, who is the independent constitutional body which runs the elections, is running the election, and we have issues, let's raise the issues squarely. But when I hear competitors square blame on other stakeholders, i.e., I want to state that my colleague said that knowing the nature and character of NPP, when we take matters light, it implies. I don't think that is fair to say. This is an exercise that all of us have equal stake in. And we won't sit down for anybody to cheat us. For instance, if there are errors in the register, it goes against either party. Every competitor in this exercise could and would be shortchanged if you don't have an appropriate data in that respect. And so I would not in any way say that because NPP is in government and that LPP is the one doing these things, that's a bit below the belt. And I want to further state that we have equally, as a political party and a stakeholder, registered our displeasure and vehemently said so. We wouldn't say anything with kind words by coming to say that these are unprecedented. Well, what interpretation do we put on such words and such statements? It is because we are not satisfied and we expect the Electoral Commission to work and do better.
So basically the concerns are the same. You both agree in terms of the errors. You also both do agree that this is unprecedented because you've also used the word. But the Electoral Commission has addressed some of these challenges. So for instance, Alhassan Suhuyini, the Electoral Commission has said that those people who are male, who were misrepresented on the register, for instance, it really doesn't matter. They will still vote. Those who've had issues with their ID numbers, for instance, would also be able to vote. So the bottom line is voting, and they're not taking that from anybody. Doesn't that work for you?
You see, Mama, I are too tolerant of the incompetence of people and institutions in this country. And that, for me, gives cause to worry. We should not, tolerate such level of mediocrity, especially when, such insulting explanations are given. That's why people will tell you that people deserve the government or the kind of governance that they get. If you take anything from, your institutions and your leaders, they will serve you anything. Why did we have to spend that much money, $150 million? Can you imagine the alleviation that it could have created in many sectors in this country, education, the economy and others? But we decided to give them that much at a time that we knew that it was, even risky to do this exercise. And elections are about credibility. And the credibility is ensured when every stakeholder understands the systems that are in place and are able to monitor the systems efficiently and effectively. So you tell me that I should not worry when a man bearing a card designated as a female comes to register. At the end of voting, political parties take data. How do you enter the data forms? Is it a hermaphrodite who came to vote because he was a man holding a female card? I mean, let us not tolerate this mediocrity. The Electoral Commission assured us they were going to do better. Because of that, we gave them so much. And so let us not encourage them to return to us with such mediocrity. Now, the coding system that, like my honorable colleagues spoke about, you need to know who is registered at what time so that you can also monitor as a stakeholder to ensure that nothing untoward happens. So you don't tell me that even people who don't have a card can vote, or people who have a card. How do I monitor? How do I ensure or convince myself at the end of the day that this is actually a credible exercise? That is why in the past, things are done in such a way that political parties all have the same data set with the Electoral Commission. So that even if you are that effective on before the Electoral Commission,
okay, we seem to be having.
You will know how to monitor.
Okay, we seem to be having issues with your connection, Alhassan Suhuyini. So let me move to Mr. Champong and also ask you. Okay, you sound stable now, but let me just go to Sedechampo and ask him if the responses from the Electoral Commission does it for him in terms of the issues identified.
I think they are not very welcoming, and EC needs to do better. But let me further state this. This behavior of my colleagues in NDC needs to be looked at. In 2008, as a candidate, the current General Secretary, who used to be the General Secretary of the NDC, threw documents and went on with series of press conferences and thought the whole world was coming to an end. Eventually, we ran an election and the EC decided for us, the first time in the history of our electoral process, we had 3 separate elections. There was a main election, there was a runoff, and there was a determination that was effected to offer us a precedent in one constituency. History is with us. I am only admonishing based on experience that the language we use against each other is not Ghanaian. And if you demand respect, you come with respect and speak appropriately. This attitude of us speaking and using vocabulary, which is unprintable, I do not subscribe to that.
Okay, well,
and
so
I think,
what is making you unhappy specifically? What type of language has been used?
Let me state this. At the least, commentators and anchors like you will describe the posture of the EC. And sometimes I think, and I see it as unfriendly, but if we consistently attack each other, we do not build any proper consensus. Generic, this is my own observation and not any person's observation. And I think as a people, our posture must reflect the kind of people we claim and believe we are as a people. I subscribe to every challenge, genuinely stated, and I go forth with EC must respond as a matter of urgent to us. The differences in the codes, the names that are missing because we do not have time. And I state this emphatically because we are in abnormal times. And this must be attended to and responded to by us.
But isn't it the same thing that the NDC is also calling for? You're speaking the same language, aren't you?
Just a second. If we talk about classical incompetence, mediocrity, the connotation behind those vocabulary sends a different interpretation to the minds of the other party.
But if that's how they see it, can't they describe it as such?
I agree 100% if that's how they see it. But we're building a society. We are not just living by our individual context and our own minds. We are a unitary state. And that is why I speak in this spirit.
Okay, well said. Let me give you the last say as we wrap up, because your line wasn't very clear, Alhassan Sini. Just wrap it up for us quickly so we can move on to our second issue.
So I absolutely agree with my honorable colleague, and I must say it is refreshing, listening to him, because some of his colleagues tend to rather talk down and make light some of the issues that we have raised with the Electoral Commission and make it look as if, it is us against the EC together with the New Patriotic Party. But it is quite refreshing listening to him agree with us on most of these issues and the need for our citizens and patriots to demand better of the Electoral Commission, especially because we have given them so much and they dare not, disappoint us. As for the issue of language, I think that, again, I cannot but agree with him that there's a need for us to be very decorous in the way, we speak with each other and to each other. But there's also the need for us to be very frank with each other and call a spade instead of, a farming or a working implement. Because if I mean, why? Even in this country, Honorable Seth knows. A whole sitting president for 3 years has been described incompetent and given reasons. So why should it be such a big deal if the Electoral Commission is showing incompetence and levels of mediocrity? And I say so. I think he should encourage that kind of frank, and open discussions that will help build our institutions instead of treating them with kid gloves.
Okay, gentlemen, I guess at least we agree that we can end this conversation here. And then move on to this very disturbing issue of a group of people who woke up one fine Friday morning, decided that they were declaring their day, and so blocked major roads, got travelers stranded, and also broke into an armory of a police station. Not only detained the commander, but also got some other police officers. Well, you know the story too well. This unfolded, and I guess over the weekend, we've gotten a lot of information and a lot of understanding as to the operations of the group or groups, as we now know, and government response as well. Let me start with you because you chair the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament. There's a history to this, where we are today with this group. What's your understanding of how we've tried to deal with them in the past? For the public, really, it's the prosecution that a lot of people were following, but we know that we haven't successfully done that as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Mama V. The Constitution of the land allows for fundamental freedoms. And if people who are caught up in certain actions and events that the security services perceive to be untoward, the right place to send them is the law courts. One of our major challenges has been adducing evidence in court to enforce and to strengthen a claim by the security services about the actions of these people. I must admit that our joy, and me in person, is our recent admission and support from the House of Chiefs. And in this country, we all believe that, and we know that the custodians of our land, as far from the state authority of government, are our chiefs. So we pay a lot of respect and homage to them. And I'm glad that they are speaking to this issue now. Their voice is being heard, and that they do not support any group in their intentions. By that, I come to a conclusion that the acts of indiscipline by those people are purely criminal, and they need to be arranged before courts.
Isn't that how we've seen it from the beginning? Haven't we seen that it was a criminal act from the very beginning, as we've been trying to deal with it? Did we have to get to this point where some chiefs are disassociating and condemning the act before we realize that this is a purely criminal act?
Mama V, the point is this. Yes, we have seen it as a criminal act, but as you may know, our law courts only dwell on proof. And you can only prove when you have proper evidence. In this era, we have these criminals walking into a police station, appropriating a police vehicle, breaking into cells, releasing inmates in there, appropriating a district assembly vehicle, breaking into an armory, appropriating arms. There can never be any description than to get this positive evidence. Going beyond all these appropriations and attacking a divisional police officer and his driver in an act, this can never be described in any form and the right penal measures ought to follow to serve as a deterrent to the many that I know in my own observation support these acts and embolden those persons who went on that unfortunate criminal vendetta.
Did you just say that you know persons who support these groups?
I said my personal observation. I keep them as an observation because this is a very dangerous behavior in trying to destabilize our state.
Okay, and these are known people?
Mama V, it is critical. I share with who I have to share with. Some of these things are classified. You cannot just speak. Let me say this.
I appreciate that, but what you're saying is also quite serious. So, if this is personal information to you, are you giving it to the security agency so that they can deal with the matter? As you've seen, almost everybody is disassociating themselves from the group, and everybody wants them dealt with.
I'm glad. If you follow my narrative, you could see I'm choosing my words advisedly because I know we're going through processes, and the processes we are going through demands that you need to exhaust the entire process before you become conclusive. So I am very much particular. Based on the dispensations we live in, you ought not to lay blame, but we always say comments are free. And so to garnish my evidence that I have and what we have all seen by virtue of what you just demonstrated to us, going to vandalize a police station is a criminal offense. By damaging property of state, it's a criminal offense. And so those I can speak to because I'm not the only person observing them. As your cameras have captured them for us, these are pure criminal exercise that we need to all condemn. And so I am stating it in this light.
Okay. Alassane Suhuyini, we've been here before where we've arrested, showcased, this whole, made it like a spectacle, really. And then we haven't reached anywhere with it. How do we give confidence to the people that this matter is truly being dealt with?
Well, I think that this is another issue that I expect all of us to be very worried about. We must be disturbed as a people that acts like this, are taking place, in our part of the country. We have remained an oasis of peace for a very long time within the, West African sub-region. And, if you know or follow the history of other countries around us, and their instability. Things like this, were noticed at the beginning of those, countries that are in turmoil today around us. And that is why we mustn't take this lightly. I've listened to a number of security experts, and I am not an expert in that area, but some of the, things they say make a lot of sense. And they put the blame squarely on people who are in charge of our state security at this time. And you wonder what level of intelligence was gathered before the incident that took place over the weekend took place, and how they dealt with the intelligence that they gathered, and how they were not, how they were not able to diffuse these acts. A major highway such as the one that was blocked for many hours before security could show up is simply unacceptable in an area where things like this have been occurring every now and then, and the reaction even afterwards hasn't been that encouraging. And I'm talking about the observations that I have listened to being made by a number of security experts on this matter. And again, if you look at how we have dealt with the people who have been related to this matter in the past and, got arrested, it doesn't look as if the nation is updated adequately on how they are, handled and treated. And so sometimes, I said it on another platform, when you allow that vacuum, and people do not know what is happening to the elders or the leaders that you picked up, and maybe all they find is that they are back with them and living with them and perhaps still encouraging them. The disinformation that, can go along with that attitude could also just be that state authorities support us. And there are some big, our system, they may start telling these young people, this very, gullible people that, look, you see, they took us to Accra and brought us back. We tell you big people, are even in support of this thing that we are doing. And that is why nothing is happening. Because the nation has not taken it upon itself to update citizens on how, they are dealt with and to serve as deterrent so that others will not want to emulate their example or even join their movement. So I am particularly not happy about the way we have handled information around the people that we have arrested in the past connected with this group. I do not preach or promote high-handedness in dealing with this issue, but I think that as much as possible, we must not allow information gaps that can be exploited to further encourage the activities of these people. Now, I've also listened to other conspiracy theories, and I've listened to the security experts like Professor Kwesi and others, and they don't think we must dismiss some of these, conspiracy theories. The fact that we are in an election year and anything is possible should give us the reason not to dismiss, all the conspiracy theories that we are hearing as to whether this is a ploy, to make the place ungovernable so that, one way or the other, it will inure to the benefit of a political party, either in government or in opposition. These are all things that we should not dismiss lightly without proper investigation, and interrogation. So I have a lot of confidence in our professionals who are still in the security, agencies. And I am hoping and counting on them to put the interest of the nation above any sectional interest, and perhaps come with information that we can all work with and rely upon, and which will also lead to dealing with this threat, whether it is whether it is politically motivated or it is actually, fairly, pushed by this secessionist group. Now, the issue of government position on this has also come up. We have not really, since this incident happened over the weekend, had government position on this. I mean, I've heard, a low-ranking officer describe them as rebels. I mean, how did that, designation come about? Because these are security, labels, and you just don't label a group of thugs, with any sort of labeling, without proper consideration. What level of intelligence led to these people being labeled as, rebels? So I would want some people high up in government, like the Minister for Defense, like the President himself, addressing the nation on this matter, because this is as critical as COVID was, in my view, because it has the tendency of also destabilizing this country and, threatening our democracy and the experiment that we have been working with since Dr. Nkrumah ensured that this country came together as a unitary state. So it is that critical that we need to hear from our president, our commander-in-chief, tell us exactly what they know about it. And they may not give us in details how they intend to deal with it, but leave us with an assurance that, you have a handle on this matter.
We heard from the information minister over the weekend. You want to hear same from the president? What difference will that make?
You see, I'm saying that during COVID, we used to hear from the president and we still heard from the information minister. And I'm saying, just as COVID was threatening, our life and, the security and our peace as a people, we should not consider this threat too light. And that is why I think the commander-in-chief it's not too much to ask of him to address the nation and let us understand what is at stake, and perhaps give us the assurance that it is not going to affect our election. You see, we are getting close to an election, and there are already, tension related to elections wherever elections take place, especially in this part of the world. And that is why we must not, allow this to fester, so that people exploit it during the election period and the tension that it comes with.
Okay. Let me come to you, Mr. Champong. You seem to suggest, when you were talking earlier, that with the present actions in terms of attacking the police station, detaining some policemen, we now have something to prosecute them with, something that would nail them. But I was thinking, the fact that we already knew they were recruiting, we knew they were training, we had things that we still could use against them. Would this, in terms of the attack of a police station, the kind of damage that they've caused, does it carry enough to nail these guys? Just that?
No, I can say that enough evidence has been gathered, and this evidence, I know that state prosecution will win the day in court. The reasons are that when such actions break and the ingredients are put together, the arbiter is the court. He decides. Unfortunately, if the court do not admit the evidence that you bring forth as evidence that the court can stand on to take certain actions, the court will not do so. I believe, and I know from basic knowledge, that first and foremost, getting into the police station and breaking into the police station unlawfully is an offense. Appropriating state property, breaking into the armory, attacking a serving police officer, not the least, but a divisional officer and his driver, appropriating a district assembly vehicle. These are not just facts. That is why I'm confident to call them criminals. These are criminals. The level of criminality will be determined by the courts. But everything that I have measured from their action since Friday is criminality. And let me further state that this has been the challenge when you are in the saddle managing affairs. You talked about how in the past they've been arrested, sent to court, and they've been allowed to go home. And other commentators are saying the same. The reasons are simple, as I just described. If the evidence you have is not good enough, the courts will free them. And then the same...
But that's not our fault, is it? Because you do the whole show and you make us believe that you have a strong case against them. That's what we'll believe in.
So once you pick up intelligence, you need to wait, monitor, and ensure that the intelligence you pick was true. You can only affirm the intelligence and question the characters based on further actions. And as we speak, their actions is known to everybody. I don't call them terrorists because they are Ghanaians, but I call them criminals because they want to destabilize the state we all live in. And once anybody attempts that, you are, if I were their lawyer who will prosecute them, these are treasonable characters. And so they may be causing treason. I must admit that in these times, we had to take a long, calm wait to look and see their proper modus operandi. They have been operating in cells. They have been operating in several schemes and ways. However, if you just carry intelligence and you go to court with intelligence, you don't win the day. You can only get them in a tarrying mood, and they could just come up to say you are infringing on their fundamental freedoms and rights. But for them to be bold, to go and attack in action, I'm not a lawyer, but something I have read in criminology is about your intentions and the consequence, which may be your actions. They call the actus reus. I'm sure the actions they have undertaking at the moment all points to us having enough proof to nail them as criminals trying to destabilize this country, and we don't encourage such behavior. I'm gladdened that commentary is coming up, and my colleague Suhuyini, let's just listen to, have spoken to the matter. I expect more of my kind. And in the neighborhoods where these things are taking place, where they have been grouping and they have been training, we have representatives there. We are all colleagues. I congratulate my colleague Okujato. He's spoken about this matter. Let us all speak to this matter. I know that definitely the president will speak to this matter.
When?
But like Mavi,
when?
Suhuyini knows.
Yeah, we know how he's been central because he's ECOWAS chair with the issue of Mali. And some people have said this one is really, this is at home. And we should have heard from him yesterday, for instance.
Mavi, we know that Mali has been a running matter way before he even was offered the opportunity to lead his peers in the sub-region. That does not come in. The most important thing is that his subordinate who speaks on his behalf when matters of this break, the Minister of Information, have come to speak to us. The other sector ministers, security ministers, hardly speak immediately. But I know you certainly hear from them as a matter of time pretty soon. And definitely, this matter will not go without the president's comment. The president will certainly speak. And if you've listened to the Minister of Information, that is the president speaking through his subordinate. But we will still have our president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, address the country on these matters. Mind you, he is the chairperson to the National Security Council, the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. These are the men on ground who have been collecting, the professional men on ground who have been getting and feeding us with all the information. What I say are no matters that I know all of. I have to consult them and take from the professionals in there, the operatives, in either side, those from the intelligence side, those on the defense side, those on the preventive and prosecuting side. And this is where you have people from Homeland, these are the members of the Criminal Investigations Department of our police service, and the men who have been, and let me say this, and let me congratulate the military officers who over the years under this administration have taken the pain to tour the entirety of the Volta region, addressing these issues, meeting people in communities, organizing surgeries, meeting with people, addressing their concerns and issues, so that these people I call criminals who are on a criminal agenda will not overtake measures that do not lie in their mouth or in their space.
Okay, I'll just give you just 30 seconds for the next question that I'm going to ask. Alhassan Suhuyini, you first. There are issues that these people are also raising, apart from the vandalism, what we've described as criminal acts and how the state should deal with those. There's also the issue that they themselves are also raising. Is this a matter that we should pay attention to?
That is why, Mamavi, I say that I do not subscribe to absolute high-handedness in dealing with, this issue, because there are underlying causes that we must not also ignore. But what is significant, especially about what happened over the weekend, is the fact that we have not heard the leadership of this group claim, ownership of the acts of these guys over the weekend. elsewhere, we will wait until the leadership, claim ownership and actually endorse what happened. And that is why some of the conspiracy theories must not be dismissed, because other groups, for other reasons, can operate under the guise of the known, group in that area. I have even seen articles attributed to some members of the group suggesting that they do not know these people who carried out some of the, criminal acts that has necessitated us having this discussion this morning. So it is important that we listen to we hear from the president. And your question is apt about the expectation of the president in the issues in Mali and how this issue in his own backyard can make it impossible for him to have any credibility to deal with the issues in Mali if he is not able to deal, creditably well with what is happening in his own backyard. So that is why it is important that he speaks with us.
Okay.
That is why it is important that the intelligence, points to a fact that this operations that we witnessed over the weekend was actually carried out by the Western Togolandese, because we haven't heard from their leadership claim these acts and endorse these acts. And that is why some of us are of the view that we should not dismiss those who think that this could be another group, for whatever reason, be it political or otherwise, operating, in their name, just to create, some panic. So it's important we get all our information right. And I think the best person to assure all of us of what is happening and how ready we are as a country to deal with it is the Commander-in-Chief.
I thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Champon, just, the last question that I asked in terms of should we be paying attention to the issues that they have raised?
Mamavi, that is a non-starter. If you go to the plebiscite results, and this is public knowledge, if you go to the plebiscite results, only two of the 7 or 8 constituencies decided to stay out of the union. And those areas are not even in question as to where the areas that the people are complaining of today. And so that is a non-starter.
Okay.
I don't want to listen to the manifestation. The most important thing is that we should all see them as criminals, and the activities are criminal to the sanctity of the state. We can't encourage that. I will not encourage that in any day, in any way.
Okay. All right. I thank you also for your time.
I think that is quite dangerous. You see, that is why I said that, first of all, we must understand what happened over the weekend and whether the secessionists really were the operators. Because over the period, they have not, worked in this manner. They have not unleashed violence in this manner, especially to citizens. But they have raised critical issues of inclusion and governance that we must not dismiss. I mean, for example, the Eastern Corridor roads are issues that they have raised, which are issues of inclusion and governance and distribution of the national cake. Yes, even as we may describe some of their conduct as criminal, we must not allow, we must also deal with some of these issues that they can use to galvanize.
Okay. All right. Mr. Champo, yes, you're saying?
Let me say this. If the concerns is the matter of the Eastern Corridor routes, the first time these secessionist groups, so-called, were heard of was in 2007. John Kufuor's administration was 2007. The next time we heard of them was in 2017-2018. In the gap, Eastern Corridor Road has become a major issue. Were they not in town? Could they not raise their voices? I don't want to trivialize these matters. The point is, we've been observing and watching their activities, and it is time to speak negatively to them. They go and organize surgeries in communities, preaching violence, that they will not allow the state to remain in peace. And we hear nobody speak about such despicable language. We all go about canvassing for support to ensure that we govern and lead our communities. People rise up and use language that are criminal, and nobody calls them to order, and nobody speaks against their activity.
Okay, gentlemen.
Honorable said. You see, I get your frustration, Honorable said. I get your frustration. But what I'm saying is that issues of inclusion and issues of governance, and I only use the Eastern Corridor Road as an example of issues of governance that the people around that area have concerns with. So if you do not address those issues become reasons and fertile ground for miscreants to mobilize on, even if that was not their intention. If you do not address the issue of inclusion, for example, if you hear highly placed people refer to some members of that area as Togolese, I mean, these are all things.
Okay, gentlemen. Gentlemen, I guess this is one of those things that you'd hold your separate views and you will not agree on. Mr. Champon, you're saying something, but you're not audible.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Are you audible now, or
yes.
I've been muted by
your
console?
You are audible now, except that I just want to say that you still hold your separate views. You won't agree on this.
Not necessarily. In attending to matters of governance, Sweeney and I attest to the efforts of this government in affirming that the country takes funds, loans. We have just approved this parliament, the life of this 7th parliament, have approved monies to address these issues. These are attending to matters of governance.
Okay.
And so not matters that we are pushing away. That is the only way you can approach the subject.
Okay.
And I think it is.
So that's what I'm saying. I appreciate your concern. It is not just the issue of even approving funds to address some of these issues, but it also requires an engagement process that will let majority of the people feel included and their concerns, being addressed, so that they do not fall victim to whoever may want to recruit them for any criminal activity. So let us not dismiss the issues. The issues they are raising are germane, but they may not be enough for them to engage in the criminal acts that they are engaging in. And so it is important as you deal with those criminal tendencies, you also deal with the issues that they use to mobilize.
We have to go.
Example. And that's why
that is why
we have to wrap this one up, and we could go on and on and on. And I know that you know it. But our guest on AM Talk, Seth Acheampong, Member of Parliament for Mpraeso, also chairs the Defence and Interior Committee. Alhassan Sihini is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you for this discussion. Really grateful. And that's it for AM Talk. Still ahead, we talk World Heart Day, which is tomorrow, by the way. But we will tell you, as we've been doing, I think, for a number of years now, something amazing that the Kasapreko Group has been doing with Awake Purified Drinking Water and their contribution to the National Cardiothoracic Center. But the stage is set. 8-1 schools battle ready for 1/8 contest, and I'm talking about the National Science and Maths Quiz. It gets underway today, beginning today. Maxwell Agbagba is joining us live for some updates. Maxwell, a very good morning to you. PSCA, just when we started the show, teased us a bit with what we are to expect in terms of the preparation and the schools that will be battling it out. You've been there for a while now. What are the competing schools saying?
Well, a lot of them are hoping that at least they'll be able to make it past the 1/8 stage. You know, if you're able to make it to the quarterfinals, what it means is that if you get to the quarterfinals, you become a seeded school. And for now, many of the teachers that I've spoken to, many of the students who I've spoken to, are hoping to at least make it so that they become a seeded school. So they would not have to go through, the regional qualifiers in the 2021 competition. So for now, many of them those I've spoken to are keeping their expectations very moderate. Hopefully when they make it to the quarterfinals, then they'll begin to aspire higher for the trophy. But there are others also who are looking at the bigger picture of targeting the trophy. And they tell me that it begins from the 1-8 stage. So we are waiting and we'll see how it all pans out here at the University of Ghana Business School and then the NNB. I'll be bringing you details of those contests shortly. But we have with us Nancy Asiedu Amrado. She's the brands manager at Airtel Tigo. And we also have with us Naneki Ankuma Asare. She's the managing director for Prime Time Limited, organizers of the National Science and Maths Quiz. Let me start off with you. Aso.
Yes.
Tell us, Airtel Tigo, coming on board this year? This year, right?
Okay, so let me...
Okay, you want to give us a genesis, yeah?
Yeah. So between Airtel and Tigo, in the past, before the merger, Tigo had already sponsored the National Science and Maths Quiz. So after the merger and as part of our commitment to supporting education, which is a key enabler to our development in this country, we decided to support the National Science and Maths Quiz again as Airtel Tigo. So we're doing this because we see that the youth are doing so well, and if they should also go into maths and science, it's going to go a long way to support the development of this nation. So we are coming on board basically because we support education. It is one of our key commitments in making sure that the country develops and grow or groom the young ones to become our future leaders in engineering, in doctrine, in so many areas of the sector. So that is why we are on board this year. Okay,
I'll go to Naneki right after this, but I want to find out your take on this. There are many who think that corporate institutions are not really doing enough to push, science education, to push, STEM. A lot of them interested in other things that I wouldn't want to, mention on this platform. The National Science and Maths Quiz, I know, has enjoyed a lot of, support. Do you think corporate institutions are doing, enough to support educational, activities like these?
I think the writings are on the wall. I don't have to talk about it so much, but then I can tell you about my commitments. Okay, so as Airtel Tigo, we are committed, like I said already, because we see that education is a key enabler in the development of our country. So we are here because we want to make sure that we bring this vision to life. And I know other institutions, and Nick, I'll talk about it, but there are other institutions who are also supporting. So it's not just us, but then we are, let's say, a key fund to maths and science.
Okay, let me come to you, Naneki. Naneki, we are the 1-8 stage of the competition. We went to the regions. I was in Greater Accra, Central, Eastern, and then Volta. My colleague PSC was also in the Northern Zone. You were with us a lot of the times. Now we are here in Accra, University of Ghana Business School, NNB. Tell us, what's your assessment of the preliminary stage of the competition this year?
Well, the prelims went very well. I was very happy that for the most part, it was quite incident-free. People observed the COVID-19 protocols as we had directed, and all of that went very well. Some schools impressed me. At the regional, St. Thomas Aquinas was not too strong when we did the regional qualifiers, but they wowed everybody at the prelims and were the highest scorer for Greater Accra. And I believe the second highest for the whole exercise. Kumasi Anglican was impressive as usual. They have maintained their form, and I'm expecting really good things from them. A few others dipped a bit, and that was a bit surprising to me. But I'm hoping that now that they have competed and have had a taste of the competition again, they are back into their groove and will be able to do very well at this level.
Okay, great. Let me come to you. Aso, tell us, what kind of What kind of innovation, what kind of things should we expect from Airtel Tigo as you're joining, as you've joined, this year's competition?
All right. Thank you, Maxwell. So, for the first time on this show, we have introduced the Highest Scorer Awards. Okay. So what we do is that for every stage of the quiz, let's say at the end of the day today, whoever gets the highest score would get a reward in terms of monetary. So at the prelims, we were given 1,000 cedis to the schools that came out as highest scorers for each of the days. And at this stage, the 1/8, we are offering 2,000 Ghana cedis. At the quarterfinal, we are increasing it to 3,000 cedis. Okay. And then at the semi-finals, also increased to 5,000 Ghana cedis. And the grand finale, we are giving 10,000 Ghana cedis to the highest scorer. So this is really, great news for the students. And this is some good amount of money that can support you in terms of your school needs. So we are encouraging them to do well. I would say that all of them are key winners. Any of them can win. So they should try as much as possible, put in your best, not just for the money, but then to make your school also be held in high esteem. So we wish them the best, and they should do their best to win these laudable rewards.
The good thing here is that for a lot of freebies that the telcos offer, they'll tell you that terms and conditions apply. And sometimes it can be very long. But this one, you just have to be the highest scorer and get the money. You walk up the stage with the money. That's the good part of it. Nanekia, it has been very challenging, very difficult in this COVID-19 period. A lot of, businesses have taken nosedive. A lot of things are not happening because of COVID-19. How difficult was it organizing the National Science and Maths Quiz this year, looking at all the difficulties that, we are facing as a people?
Yes, we've had our fair share of difficulties too, and we are still experiencing challenges because when we do the National Science and Maths Quiz, we have a whole lot of people on location, the schools, the students and the teachers and drivers, we have the crew, we have assistants, production assistants and consultants, and a wide variety of people working on the show at the same time. And so our first concern was keeping everybody safe. And so we've had to do COVID-19 testing, which thanks to the Ghana Health Service and Noguchi Memorial Institute was done for us for free. We are really grateful to them for that help because that was a lot of people. We've tested over 500 people in camp, yes, and so far, so good. We are providing masks and, wash stations, hand sanitizers. We are educating the teams, practicing social distancing. One of the other things that we've done is because we are not allowing live audiences in now, we've had to do a live stream of all the contests from the prelims. Up to last year, we were streaming 40 contests live from the 1/8 to the finals. This year, we had to go down to the prelims, go to the regions, so extra work, extra travel time. There's a lot that's going on, and streaming 80 contests live instead of 40. And that in just a year is a very big leap, double at the same time. So there's a lot that we've had to do to be able to have the competition. But we are really glad that we can do it. And we are hoping that everybody will cooperate so that we can have it in a very safe environment.
On the free mask, let me say I'm a beneficiary. I got a free mask, when I walked in here. And if you come to the auditorium itself, some of the seats in here have been labeled "Do not sit here," meaning you cannot sit very close to your friend because we're ensuring social distancing. And that has been the case throughout the regions, and we are replicating all of that here in Accra as well. Asa, you want to talk about your products and some packages for young people, old people, everyone. NSMQ, no discrimination. Everyone is involved. Yeah. We are all involved.
Yeah. So let me first give this short code to our existing customers.
Okay.
So there's this code *533# that customers can just visit there and get special offers.
Okay.
So if you are on Airtel Tigo, anytime you want to get a special offer, just dial *533#. And then once you do that, you get a wide range of different offers for voice, data, that would help you do whatever you want to do in a day or even weekly or monthly. For new customers, we have the free morning offer.
Okay.
All you need to do is to get a SIM card, a new SIM card, and you are able to enjoy the offer. So once you come on board, let's say the guy who would register you at the shop or at the retailer on the street, the hawkers, we call them freelancers, the guys who are on the street selling SIM cards would help you register, be on Airtel Tigo Money, and then once you are able to do any transaction from 1 Ghana cedi and above, you are able to get the free morning offer.
Okay.
We also have packages for young ones like these. So I know they would want to go online most of the time, and we've got big time data bundles that do not expire. Yes. So all you need to do is to dial *111#.
Okay.
You can get bundles that would, suit your lifestyle. So just look at your data usage, or if you want to do more, there are higher packages for you. So, I mean, I think it's a good timing for the guys who are even competing or supporting them learn to go there, get data bundles that would help them, learn and then get access to the internet.
Okay.
And I think I've told you about the free morning too. So, I mean, we are there to support.
Okay. Okay, sure. And you have a stand here? Okay.
We have a sales team downstairs.
Okay.
They have set up, they would help you if you need a new SIM card. They would register you. Like I said, they would register you on Airtel Tigo Money. And once you are able to do any transaction from 1 Ghana cedi and above, you are entitled to the free morning offer. So if you don't have a SIM card, just go downstairs, meet them. They are going to help you out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Nanike, I'm sure you want to acknowledge some sponsors of the NSMQ as well.
Yes. So we'd like to say a really big thank you to all our sponsors, starting with the Ghana Education Service. They are the main sponsors of the program, and the Ministry of Education for all the support that they've been giving us, not just on the financial side, but with the encouragement to think around our challenges and be able to bring this competition to life. I'd like to say a really big thank you to Absa Bank Ghana for their support, to Airtel Tigo. Joy News, you're doing a marvelous job. Thank you so much. A big thank you to our educational sponsors, Accra College of Medicine, Academic City, and Central University. They are giving scholarships, so we are still keeping the competition interesting and juicy for the participants. Thank you to Third Eye Care Vision Center. I want to say a really big thank you to GTP for the lovely fabrics that they've been giving us for our quiz mistresses and other officials. YFM, thank you. We are really appreciate everything. Medifem Multi-Specialist Hospital, thank you very much. I want to say thank you again to the Ghana Health Service and to Noguchi Memorial Institute for the wonderful support that they've given us. We are grateful.
But before you go, you want to talk about your schools? Yeah. Let me start off with you. Asa, which school did you attend?
Unfortunately, my school is not here.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah, but
You still want to tell us?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I was at Okwapman Secondary School.
Maxwell Agbagba there, live from the University of Ghana Business School. And you know the 1/8 stage of the National Science and Maths Quiz, it begins today. For most of us, we're waiting for the first contest. I'm rooting for the all-girls school in today's context. We wish them the very best.
Okay, now good morning, guys. You're welcome to the Showbiz segment, and this morning we are here with Chelsea, and she's a winner of Miss Universe Ghana. Congrats to you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much.
How does it feel to win this?
It's amazing. I don't even, there are no words. It's just a completely mesmerizing experience, but overall, I have a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Yes.
But how did you decide to join this or to, get yourself into this? Because you're a working person, you're a communications executive.
Yes.
And, usually people who work in communication or people working women don't really associate themselves with this.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why you try to, do this.
To combine the two. Yeah. See, I really believe that people really need to debunk the notion in pageantry that women in pageants are just bobble-headed airheads. Like, long gone are the days of just beauty. Like, nowadays it's beauty plus brains equals the crown.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have a much better experience than this so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to be, I know it's been just short time since you won, but how does it feel to be a queen during this era? We have coronavirus. And how are you going to be working and doing all the things you're supposed to do?
Sure. So my platform is autism in Ghana. I just want to delete the stigma that surrounds autism in Ghana, because I was told that there are women in Ghana who actually drown their babies due to lack of knowledge and awareness on autism, confusing it for something else altogether. And I feel like it's time that stops today.
Okay.
So I'm seeking to bring supportive services, education, speech pathologists to just heighten the awareness on it and increase the noise level.
Okay, but this time it was a bit different from the other times that we had this pageant, because the other girls had to compete.
Yes.
And then you did not have the chance to do that. Like, you were chosen.
Yes, I was interviewed and then appointed.
Okay.
Yeah, due to Corona, you always want to make sure that you have your safety in check.
Yeah.
And that was really what happened.
Can you just run us through the process of, before they got to, choose you?
Yeah, it wasn't just one interview. It was a period of like 1 to 10. And it wasn't just me that they interviewed. They interviewed a lot of people. And, they want to see how articulate you are, how well you can walk, how good you are in front of the camera, and all of that is a decision that they have to make. So
why do you think you won? Talking to all these other ladies, why do you think they chose you?
As my beautiful director, Miss Monet, said, I think I won because I have a heart of gold.
Yes, you mentioned that.
Thank you. Yeah. And she's just amazing. So I'm so grateful to her and to my family.
Yeah, so you said you had a series of interviews and they interviewed other girls as well.
Yeah.
Did you see yourself, did you feel that, okay, I think they're going to choose me? Did you think you were going to be chosen?
Absolutely, but you see, we're all a queen in our own way, even when the crown isn't on our head. You always have a crown on your head, even when it's not there. So, I just prayed to God, I talked to my family, and I just kept it pushing. I just, you give it all or you give it nothing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you have the chance to meet any of these girls?
No, it was individually.
Individually?
Yes.
Okay. So, you guys met and then they walked you through the whole thing, the process, and can you tell us when this whole thing started? When did they start with the interview? Like the year, was it this year?
Yes, it was this year.
Okay.
So the announcement was made in March.
Okay.
Due to COVID, it was put on pause, but then as the summer picked up, it was brought back into the limelight, and there was a lot of people who applied for the position.
Okay.
So, for me to receive it, to all the girls who wanted it, I promised, even in my speech, that I would carry this position with dignity, class, honor, respect, but most of all, purity of spirit.
Okay.
So,
it seems Mama, you want to ask something.
Oh, yeah. I also wanted to be a queen some time back. But please carry my passion with you.
Please, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You're a queen, though.
You're waving already.
Yeah. Okay, on behalf of Chelsea and Caddy, we thank you for watching our show. We'll see you tomorrow when I become Miss Universe.
Oh.
Hey. Bye.